Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another broadcast, and I'm so glad that you guys can join us here again. Today was not a day I was planning on going live at all. I needed a break after yesterday. Anyway, let's go ahead and shut this down here. And but so glad to have you guys here again. Thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. I hope you had a wonderful day. It was very raining. I mean, I'm talking about torrential raining here in New Jersey. And it was to the point where it was very difficult to see. I mean, at times, but we made it to where we need to go and come back and all of that. But it was coming down. But other than that, so far here in New Jersey, it's for the month of August. It's been quite on the cooler side. I've seen that happen in the past, but this is going a bit longer than what I expected to, but I'm not complaining. The weather's been wonderful. And, again, I hope you guys have had are having a wonderful day as we're closing out this week. I tell you, this month is going by pretty quick, isn't it? It's flying. It is flying. I'm telling you. So anyway, like I said, so glad to have you guys here. Glad to have you guys in the chat. Really appreciate it. I know we've been putting out a lot of videos out here as of late, and it's just anytime if you've been following us for a while, something comes up where it's like, you know what, we really need to focus on this. We do our best to really try to jump right on top of it and cover it the best way we can. And tonight, I promise you that the video, last night's broadcast, it was over 2 hours long. Is because we just really had to go over and take our time and going over those basic points as far as what's the strategy for when it comes to victory, if you will, having our people walking in a lifestyle of victory. And I'm not talking some big thing that's huge pie in the sky. I'm talking about practical things that you can do or you should be focusing on where you are walking this thing out and we're not just talking. Because I know a lot of times people will hear that and automatically roll their eyes because we've heard it so many times, but the reality is that, yes, even in today's climate, even with the government or governments that we're under, you can live a full life, and a happy one as well. And that's why it so saddens me a lot of times when I hear so many people here on social media that just spend so much time talking about the system and really no hope, especially those that are in, maybe in the Christian world, but even in the Hebrew world as well. It's like everything that comes out, it's like, oh, look, the fires are over there. Oh, it's getting a lot of rain. And oh, is this, It's happening, y'all. The judgments are here. It's, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. And it's like, and so, and we talked a little bit about that last night, touched on how religion a lot of times will use fear to keep people engaged. It's really a sick cycle, where fear is the main centerpiece of attraction of people, where they can come together and talk about how bad it is outside. Now, we're not going to sit up here and pretend and lie as if the world is, like a bed of roses and everything is going well. But what I'm saying is, at the same time, you can live a life where you're above that, and you're not so much focused on that and worrying about what these other people are doing, unless it crosses your path, but yeah, that's what I really want to encourage you above all else. Even though in this series of videos we've been doing, we have been talking about something that's very important, but and it has some negative sides to it. But at the same time, we want to look at it in a way where what can we do to build from it so that we can become better at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Something more on the constructive side. So that's what we try to do here on this platform. So again, I really appreciate you guys being here. The latest video I just uploaded, it was just a recap. I just focused on the health portion of the broadcast that we did last night. That was just for the benefit of those who may have missed it, because a lot of times people see 2.5 hours. They're like, I ain't even trying to look at that. So what I try to do is try to make it shorter, for those that, okay, maybe this is like a little teaser. Maybe you'll latch on to this. And then if it is of interest, you'll come back and watch the rest of it. So that's what we do. So I just uploaded that. And that was a part of our much longer broadcast that we did last night. If you did not get the opportunity to watch it, I would really encourage you over the next few days, if you get a little time, please watch that. And because it's really about elevating us as a people and moving us forward and ahead, but doing it in a very practical way. All right. So again, thank you so much for joining us. And so tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to actually talk to a sister. We're going to get her on here live in a little bit, and she's going to share about her experience working with a doula versus hospital experience. And so we're going to hear from her in a little bit. So I'm hoping around 8:30 our time, Eastern Standard Time, I'll get her on, and then we'll chat for a little bit. So we'll get to hear from her. Over the next few days, my hope is I'll be able to get a hold of a sister who has been in the industry for some time, and she has a whole lot of insight with this situation as it pertains to many of our Black women and how they are really in threat of their lives when they go into these hospitals and they want to give birth, which should be a wonderful and blessed time. But there are many stories out here where a lot of these sisters, I mean, it doesn't turn out that way. And so our immediate reaction here is, okay, well, let's pivot towards what are the solutions out there. And the solutions are, you have, of course, you got doulas, you also have, midwives. These are people who specialize in doing that, but you don't necessarily have to go to the hospital for that. You can give birth at home. So, yeah, my hope is out of this conversation, well, first of all, we'll have her hopefully over the next few days. But my hope is out of this conversation, even if you're someone that may not be with child or, you're not married or anything like that, but maybe this is an interest area of yours where you say, hey, this is something I may be interested in. I would like to know more about it. And hopefully it will spark some interest in some sisters out there who may want to go into that area of midwifery or, to be a doula or something like that. Because like I said, there are plenty of them out there. But we just have to, but there's so many more that we need, especially in light of the stories like we're, that just happened very recently down in Georgia. So I'm going to pull that story up. Just give me a moment. I'll bring it up on the screen and let's see. Let me pull this story up right quick. And then, but I did want to touch on one other thing here. Just give me a moment. Give me a moment. Again, welcome to everybody that's just joining us in the chat here. Okay, so I got that article up. Okay, so just a couple of things too. Let me just mention this really quick here. Let me bring this up on the screen because I want people to understand what war looks like. Okay, um, and I don't think people understand just what war really means and what it really looks like. I had someone. I mean, they sound like a young man that it was under a post or something I did. He said, "No, it was a video I did the other day." He was like, "No, you just sound like you're afraid for any kind of conflict. Stop punking out or whatever. And stop hiding behind the screen and all this other stuff." And so, like I told you, a lot of people, unfortunately, are really gassed up about video where black folks is hitting white people over the side of the head, and they think that is how change takes place. But that is not the way change takes place. That's maybe a, a tiny part, if at all, because a lot of times you don't even have to get to that point. But a lot of people got entertainment out of it, and but now we got to get to work, and that's what we're about here. And so when you're an individual that takes a stand and says, you know what, we want to get our behinds, we want to disconnect ourselves off of this system, and we want to do for ourselves. I want to show you exactly, give you a couple examples of what exactly that looks like. And so what you're seeing on your screen right now, this is the World Bank, and I'm sure you're aware of Uganda's stance when it comes to, LGBT. We've shown clips of the president and him, expressing his views on that and the laws that they have over there when it comes to LGBT. And of course, the Western world does not like that. And so, America, along with other Western nations, have expressed and said, hey, listen, Uganda, you better get it together. And they've even sent, celebrities over there and all that kind of stuff to get these Africans in line and get them aligned with Western values. And so Uganda has repeatedly said, no, we are not the West. We're Uganda. This is Africa. And so we don't operate on your values. We want to be a self-sustaining nation at the end of the day. And the United States, along with the rest of the Western countries, says, okay, we'll grant you that request. So what you see on the screen here, you got the World Bank says no new funding to Uganda over the anti-gay law. So here you got the banks now are saying, we're going to cut off your funding then, if that's how you're going to be. If you are trying to operate in a mode where you are off grid, so to speak, off of our agenda, then we're going to cut you off. Now, my hope and prayer is that Uganda will keep its stance and say, you know what, we're not going to, so what? We're going to get on, our minds are getting right. We don't need your money. We have all of our resources that we need right here. You can hit the road, Jack. That's what my hope and prayer is. But looking at history, things do, unfortunately, when we look at the historical record, it typically, unfortunately, it looks a little bit different. You know what I mean? In the negatives context. So, but this is what it looks like. When you take a stance and say, I am disconnecting myself off of this system, and I'm going to be an independent person, or we're going to be an independent group that is going to be self-sufficient. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to get disconnected. I mean, really disconnected. Okay. And you got to be ready for that. You got to be prepared for that. Now, that's Africa. I have another example too. Africa is also doing the same thing over in Nigeria too. Same thing. The Western banks, they don't like what's going on in Nigeria. You got the whole rebellion that's going on where they're, they're snatching down the president that was taking all this money from the people and all that kind of stuff. So people rose up and snatched his behind out of there. Well, the Western governments don't like that. So the World Bank, once again, say, we're going to put some sanctions on you too. Now, this happened within a week that the World Bank is stepping in and saying, okay, we're gonna cut you off all the way. You ain't gonna have any money. You're not gonna have access to any of our resources. And this is the part where most people have it was the straw that broke the camel's back, basically. And that's the same thing. We're talking Africa, but that's the same thing that you'll see over here more often than not. I'm talking about here in the States, where you'll have people who will take stances up to a certain point, and then when that bag is getting touched, then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute now. Can't we all get along? You watch. As time goes on, you'll see it happen over and over again. So this is something that you're going to have to be willing to, when I say go to war, you're going to have to really understand what war looks like. And what war means is that you are totally committed to your own people. Do you understand what I'm saying? 100%, into your mission and to whatever goal or whatever it is that you have. And that can be a very hard thing. Now, what I will say is when you look at your history as people, as Black people, particularly here in the United States, we have a rich history of operating just like that. One day, I don't know when, but one day I want to do a long broadcast where I'm going through as many Black founded towns as I can possibly find, which is a whole bunch of them. And I want to give you the history of all of them. When you begin to listen and read about the histories of all of these different towns that we as a people founded, I tell you, when I tell you, you will be filled with such great pride and just a smile that you will not be able to take off your face. I'm telling you, it's a very wonderful, wonderful patchwork of events that has led us to where we are today. So one day we will do a very long broadcast on that so that our people will know, because a lot of times our people will focus on Black Wall Street, but that's only a smidgen of a much bigger picture when it comes to our history. Reason why I'm bringing that up is because these different examples are individuals who built towns, who built infrastructure without the aid and assistance and protection of the United States government. And so they were able to do that. And so those are stories that we need to pull inspiration from that, so we can learn how to do that and replicate that and to build on that. So that will be something that we'll talk about one day. Now, one other example I want to give you, some of y'all may have heard this gentleman by the name of Dr. Mercola. All right, Dr. Mercola, he's one of these doctors that had some opinion about the you know what, okay? And you know what I'm talking about, right? He had some strong opinions about that. The New York Times went after him very hard. How hard did they go after him? Well, they went after his social media. That was one of the first things. But it didn't stop there. What they also did was they went after his accounts. And here's the this is his page right here. And I'll just read the highlights here. It says, JP Morgan Chase Bank informed me that they are closing all of my business accounts, along with the personal accounts of my CEO, my CFO, and their respective spouses and children. And it says, my CEO was informed his young children also will never be allowed to bank with Chase in the future. And he says, no reason for the decision was given other than there was an unexpected activity on an unspecified account. This is what the new social credit system looks like, and what every soul on the planet can expect from the central bank digital currencies that are being rolled out. Go against the prevailing narrative of the day, and your financial life will be deleted. And then last thing he says, it is difficult enough trying to navigate this hurdle today. Once everything is digitized, cash eradicated, and the social credit system completely integrated and automated, this kind of retailoring, I don't know how you say that. Retaliatory. Yeah, I'm not getting old. Retaliatory action for wrongthink could be a death sentence for some people. Now, I wanted to read that. Now, some people may look at that and say, well, Dwayne, that's a white man. We don't care about that. That is such a small way of thinking if that's your conclusion. Because what I want to tell you is this is coming from everybody. This is the kind of stuff that we have been talking about on this platform for a very long time, that this is what they are setting up right now as we speak. Now, the new CBDCs that are coming out, Fed now. We did a short. I talked about that on one of our videos. There's something called Fed Now that has been released already. You have banks that are using this right now, and basically the social credit system that many of you have heard about that's happening in China, it is now here in the United States in infancy, but it is here. And what that means is we are entering into a time that if you do not go with the narrative, you will be cut off from everything. This is why on this platform, we have been pushing people to look in the area of bartering and trading and that kind of stuff. Because see, if you're thinking that way and you can build your own networks, then you don't have to depend on these people. You understand what I'm saying? So this is what we're talking about when it comes to having a mindset of war in a war time. Because all of this other stuff, it's silly, it's dumb, it's stupid, and it accounts for absolutely nothing. All right. So I just wanted to hit those points there, just so that you guys can kind of get an understanding of just how serious it really is out here. Let's see here. Let me go to the article. All right. This is the article. Now we're getting into what we're going to be talking about. Okay. So I wanted to share this story with you. This is the news story that, in case you didn't hear it, about this young lady who was going into the hospital to have a child, but unfortunately it didn't end up that way. Okay. And so this is coming to us by way of Law and Crime. I got to pull it up on the screen here so y'all can see it too, right? All right, so here we go. It says, doctor decapitated baby during challenging delivery, kept parents in the dark about the truth. And let's see, I'm going to go through here. A couple in Georgia claims their doctor decapitated their baby during delivery and that the doctor and hospital staff tried to cover it all up in a case police confirmed they are investigating. Jessica Ross and Trayvon, interesting, huh? Trayvon Isaiah Taylor Sr. on Wednesday sued Prime Healthcare Services, which is doing business at Southern Regional Medical Center in the city of Riverdale. They are also suing the doctor and nurses. Riverdale, that's in the southern part of Atlanta, is near the airport. And for those who may not be familiar where that is. Let's see. 20-year-old Jessica Ross and her boyfriend, Trayvon Isaiah Taylor Sr., were eagerly awaiting the birth of their first child July the 9th, but were devastated to learn that not only did their baby not survive the delivery, he was tragically decapitated in the process. And I'm skipping. The parents named their son Trayvon Isaiah Taylor Jr. Interesting. According to the lawsuit, the baby's shoulders got stuck in the vaginal canal. Ross pushed for 3 hours without a delivery, the complaint stated. The obstetrician, how you say that, hon? Negligently. Okay. Applied excessive force on the baby's head and neck during the attempted vaginal delivery, causing decapitation, the plaintiff's team said in a statement. Both the complaint and the hospital identified the doctor as Tracy L. St. Julian. And if you go to our community page, you'll see that this was a black woman. All right. She and nurses are also accused of failing to do a C-section in a timely manner and failing to call for help in a timely manner. All right. And then it says, when it was all said and done, the baby's legs and torso emerged through the C-section, according to the plaintiffs. The baby's head was then delivered vaginally, they said. And this is, I'm trying to, let me see. As a direct and proximate cause of defendant's gross negligence, Trayvon Isaiah Taylor Jr.'s attempted vaginal delivery on July the 9th, 2023 was excruciating and traumatic. Trayvon Isaiah Jr. suffered tremendous pain and suffering as Dr. St. Julian applied tremendously excessive traction on his head and neck, such tension and traction that it resulted in a massive blunt force trauma to his head and neck. multiple skull and facial bone fractures, hemorrhaging on his brain, hemorrhaging in his neck and around the spinal cord, multiple fractures of his bones and in his neck, all ultimately resulting in his decapitation. Now, as I'm reading this, of course, I've had my time to get mad, and I'm still mad. But as I'm reading this, and my wife and I, we kind of looked at ourselves. I was like, what the heck was this woman even trying to do? I mean, what were you using? A snow shovel? I mean, I'm trying to figure this out. Anyway, plaintiffs accused the hospital and doctor of trying to cover up the horrifying truth. The doctor allegedly kept the couple in the dark about the decapitation when talking to them a few hours after the delivery. See, this is where you go, dark becomes darker. Hospital workers allegedly lied to the couple, telling them that a free autopsy was not an option under the circumstances. So the doctors were like, nah, you can't, it's not going to be free. We're not going to give a free autopsy. Now, y'all just killed this baby, and you ain't going to give, okay, so let's continue. The complaint alleges that the false information was given to avoid a forensic autopsy and to obstruct the gathering of evidence, authorities said. Furthermore, the complaint alleges that healthcare providers at the hospital pressured the young couple to cremate their baby in an attempt to destroy the evidence. So on top of that, they wanted them to cremate this baby. Now, who's leading this whole operation? Black woman. Are they going to bring the chairs out for that one? Anyway, hospital staff allowed the young couple to only view their dead child, the plaintiff team wrote. During this viewing, the baby was wrapped tightly in a blanket with his head propped on top of his body in a manner such that those viewing him could not identify that he had been decapitated. What the heck is going on here? Healthcare providers allegedly encouraged the mother and father of having their son cremated instead of being sent to a funeral home for burial. It was only on July the 13th, several days after delivery and a day after Ross left the hospital, that staff told them about the decapitation. And it says in a statement, South Regional Medical Center says privacy laws, blah, HIPAA laws, all that stuff. They can't really get into it, right? The hospital has taken the appropriate steps in response to this unfortunate situation. They said our commitment is to provide compassion. Oh, blah, blah, blah. All right. Let's see. And then they said their thoughts and prayers or whatever. All right. And then I'll read this part here. And they said, in an updated statement, the hospital says this unfortunate infant death occurred in utero prior to the delivery and decapitation. So the takeaways on this from me is the fact that what we have been told, going back to what I posted, I don't know, I posted on the community page, wherever, is this whole thing, this whole mindset that we have to support everything that's black. If you listen to the broadcast that we did yesterday, I told you that is the most stupidest and the most dangerous tactic that you can do in your life. And I know that sounds crazy, and I know that may throw some people off. But like I said last night, everyone that is black is not rooting for you. Let me say that again. Everyone that is black is not rooting for you. And if that is so, that is not a tactic to take. And so, unfortunately, what we see here, what we have told ourselves over and over again, oh, child, you get with a black person, they're going to take care of you. They're going to hook you up in a situation like that. But that's not what we saw in this situation, right? The fact of the matter is, these medical people are trained by a system that has a very long history of doing this kind of stuff to our people, from children to elders to the grave. We've talked about all the history of all of that. If you read, there's many books that cover this stuff. Many books that talk about this. Medical apartheid is just one of them. There's many others that talk about this as well. And this is just a norm. And you would think over 400 years, we would get the point and say, you know what? Enough is enough. We need to cut ourselves completely off of this system, and we need to start building our own stuff. But sadly and unfortunately, that is not the case. We'll complain about the system and beg and demand that it does more, but we get the same results. Meanwhile, I can look at the Jewish people. They build their own hospitals, and there's other people as well. They have their own networks and things like that. And like I said, if you listen to the broadcast last night, we talked about things that we are actually doing here. Okay, so I'm not just talking, a lot of times black folks, we like to say, well, we can build our own town. We can do all this other stuff. I had to speak from a place of experience on things that have worked, things that we're actively doing, so that other people, wherever you are, you can do the same thing. We don't need their hospitals. Things such as high blood pressure and diabetes are things that can be easily eradicated. But we have to begin to wean ourselves off of their poisons and off of their white coats, because we don't need them. It's at a point right now when I see, when you see like if it's graduation season and, you got all the, black students that graduated, that medical students that they got their white coats, and, you see the memes and people are like, oh, I'm so proud, man. Look at this. Black excellence. Look at all of that black excellence and all that stuff. Not fully understanding that you have a whole room full of people that we're sending our best and our brightest to the very dark forces of demonic forces that have experimented on us to be trained so that in turn they can also experiment on us. Many of these people that I've tried to reach out to, I'm talking about in the medical field, they don't want to come forward. They don't want to talk. There's some, but a lot of them that I've tried to reach out to personally, they either chicken out or they get scared and they don't say anything. Why? Because they got a bag connected to it. And that's just facts. And there's, even with the whole, what that we just came through, there was so many black doctors that were on code telling us what we needed to do. But when it came down to being honest and breaking down, doing a holistic look at this whole situation to this very day, they still not doing that. Family, we're going to have to wake up when it comes to this kind of stuff, for real. One other example here, and then I'm going to get to my caller here, our special guest that we're going to have on here. This individual, let's see. Many of you may have heard of Dr. Kermit Gosnell. This is another example here. Dr. Kermit Gosnell, he was an individual who, in the city of Philadelphia, he was an abortionist. And this man, if you've ever read this book, I would highly encourage you to get your hands on this book. I read it cover to cover. It's just like that. Some books I'll read a little bit and, skip through. This one I read cover to cover. It's the most horrendous thing that you would ever want to read. The stuff that was going on. This man had babies in bottles and stuff. He was just like, he was a collector. It was crazy. And the stuff that he was doing to black women in Philadelphia. And here's the thing. He was working alongside many of the major hospitals in Philadelphia. Like, they knew he was doing in some dark stuff for years. They knew he was mistreating these women for years. But yet they kept sending patients his way. And he kept going right along with it. I won't even get into a lot of the stuff he was doing because it's just that gruesome. So family, as I'm getting ready to switch over here, I'm going to call our guest tonight. My question again to you is this. Just how serious are you when it comes to engaging in war, but engaging in war to win? I'm in war to win. I'm not in war just to fight. I'm done with just fighting. I am in war to occupy and to build. That's what I'm in war for. And so, but there's also a heavy cost that has to be paid with that. And unfortunately, I would say this, I can say this safely. I would say an overwhelming majority of people who look like us are not prepared, they're not ready, or they're not willing to fight. I'm just going to keep it real. We will lead the internet when it comes to fight videos, but when it comes down to actually putting in the long-term work, not too many of our people want to do that. And I hate to be the one to tell you that, family, but that's all facts. So tonight, our focus is on our sisters in this area of childbirth. Because see, our children, and this is the point I was bringing up last night. What strategy? You can say you're in war. I don't know of any strategy in the history of this world, as far as I know. Help me out with this, family. Where the person that you're calling the enemy, you are entrusting them with the delivery of your children. Please help me out. Nicole is here. I'm going to look at you, your beautifulness, your eyes. Have you ever heard of a situation? And I'm going to repeat it. Don't cut me off. Have you ever heard of a situation where someone claims we're at war with these people, but we're going to depend that they take care, they're there at childbirth and taking care of our children? Have you ever heard anything like that?
Like I said, no.
Nothing. So until we make the point, so like I said, number one, our goal should be to get every black soul out of the hospitals, period. They need to leave. They need to go. All of them need to go, period. For my elders, to our younger people, to our youth, we need to develop a strategy to get them out of there immediately. But the thing is, what are we bringing them into? And that is the part where we're going to need to talk that out and going to have to start building at the same time. Okay. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring some of those points out there. And then what I'm going to do now is let me put a little bit, some music on. I'm going to see if I can get this sister on the phone. You want to see if you can get on the phone for me, honey? Let me put some music on here. Give me just a few moments here, and we're going to see if we can get her on the phone, okay? All right, just give me one moment. Yeah, just give us a few moments. We'll get it right on. All right, y'all, we're back on here. Let me go ahead and turn this music off here right quick. I need my face. See, I don't have my main thing here, so we're going to have to work. Hold on for just a second here. All right, let's see. Getting a little distraction here. Sister, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
There we go. All right, I'm just adjusting some things here. Just give me just a moment here. All right, so I'm trying to see if I can. All right. I'm getting a little. It's not you. It's on this end here. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Noise here. Hold on. All right. I think I'm good now. All right, Cicely. So you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, good. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, getting on here, and yeah. So you know what we've been kind of talking off and on all day, you know, in regards to this whole situation. Well, tell us. I don't know where to begin on this. when it comes to, let's start off with you're familiar with this story. You're a mother of how many children?
Two.
Two beautiful children. Now, let me ask you this. When you first heard this story, kind of give me kind of what you were feeling, when you first heard this.
Overwhelmingly disturbed and quite enraged,
Mm.
only because of my history with the subject. Th- Stop me at any point if I
Mm.
start to
No,
ramble
no,
because
just
I'm just
go.
that passionate about this.
Just go.
Ever since I was in high school, about 14 years old, I'd always known I wanted to be a mother. And I was always aware that hospitals weren't the way to go, but I wasn't necessarily sure how to fill in those blanks.
Mm.
So the more I dug into research, the more I discovered how our women were treated in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did I have those experiences to go off of, but my own mother has told me about the different things that she had to go to. I won't get into the details because
Mm-hmm.
that's her story to tell, but
Mm-hmm.
it should have never been that way. And I noticed as I grew up that it was the same story for practically every older woman in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the big pivot point was one baby shower that I attended when I was younger. And the the only advice that the mothers around could tell the mother to be was to lay back and scream.
Mm.
And everybody kind of chuckled about it the same way. You know how people kind of giggle about the horrible things that happen to you because what else can you do?
Right.
And I'm sitting there thinking in my head, this isn't right.
Mm.
This isn't right. I know we're designed to give birth. This
Mm-hmm.
isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
And that just stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm. 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 So when you see, yeah, it's just really something. I'm just reflecting now with and see, with you, with your pregnancies, you had your husband with you, right?
mm-hmm.
So I mean, when just having that support system, I think is just that's awesome. But when you think about many of these sisters out here who don't have that, I can only imagine what it must be. You just pretty much going at the whim of whatever the doctors tell you to do. Tell you to, they tell you to do this, do that, or whatever. You're just going with them, and they sound very nice and professional and all that. So you just
Mm-hmm.
completely trust everything they are saying. So, but what I want you to do is talk about your experience. I think you were sharing earlier with us today. You was talking a little bit about your experience with, I guess, working with the doctors versus working with the doula.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay. So the for my first pregnancy, I really dragged my feet in terms of going to, get checked out because everybody was really pressed about that. But again, I went into it with the mindset of we were designed to do this. I know I'm healthy, so
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason to panic. So I dragged my feet on finding a doctor because I didn't want a doctor, to be completely honest.
Right.
But we eventually found a nearby birth center that once we got there, we discovered was actually just kind of an auxiliary of a hospital.
Mm.
So it was basically a hospital with a birth center sticker on it.
Mm.
And from day one, it gave us the heebies.
Mm.
So first of all, they kind of treated me like take a number, okay, this, and that, and they treated my husband as if he didn't exist.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
They only spoke to me, looked at me, referred to me. I get it that I'm the pregnant one,
Right.
but he's also part of this
Right.
system. This is our child. He is involved.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we as women are the ones that carry the children, there are very real changes that happen in a man's body too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Parasympathetic pregnancy symptoms are real.
Yes.
My husband carried all the cravings for me.
Mm. Hey, hey, at least now I know I wasn't crazy because that was the same thing for me.
Oh, you too?
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, so we were pregnant
Yeah.
and they did not respect that at all. And I also don't like being poked and prodded. That's one thing that I'll eventually get to about the
Mm-hmm.
midwives
Right.
is they were 100% non-invasive.
Mm.
And I remember getting blood work done. And you know how they call you back and they tell you your results and whatnot.
Right.
The nurse that called me back said, "Your readings are immaculate."
Mm.
And the tone that she used was like, "How are you healthy? You're not supposed to be this healthy." She
Mm.
sounded almost disappointed.
Right. Right. Right.
And it took everything in me to be like, "Thanks, I know."
Right. 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 And this, we're going to segue just a little bit. It reminds me of a time where I went to the dentist, and my wife and listening to a lot of these other people out here as far as like the things you should do to take care of your teeth. Colloidal
Mm,
silver, coconut oil, charcoal, doing all those things, right? And I'm doing this stuff, and they automatically, like, when I walked in expecting, okay, well, you got this, or whatever, they opened my mouth and looked, and they was like, "Oh, well, there's not as much bacteria." Like, they expect it automatically, just on sight alone, that basically you just gonna be like them, but they don't. So they automatically start configuring things that it's the worst case scenario. Now that's just me with my little teeth. I can only imagine what it's like for our sisters going in that situation where they just automatically assume the worst.
And they're on a hair trigger. So there's things about pregnancy that are very important. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's like the risk of preeclampsia or that thing that starts with the G that I can't remember.
Mm.
And they test for things like that and they keep an eye on you. But there are certain things that if the smallest of indications happens, they just shoot you down the line immediately.
Mm.
It's cascade of interventions is the term.
Mm.
And that's the cascade of interventions is often what gets mothers rushed into the C-section delivery room because they swear something's happening and everybody's panicking. And it's not that deep for somebody who's actually experienced. And then you get all these horror stories because, oh, your blood pressure spiked up just by one.
Mm. 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 Mm.
And I know that I personally am a very sensitive person and I know that during birth I will be the most vulnerable I've ever been in my entire life. And I absolutely knew that if I was to be in any sort of hospital setting
Right.
in my state, they would chew me up and spit me out.
Mm-hmm.
I I decided from the beginning if I could not have a birth center or have them at home, this baby would be an accidental car baby, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote, accident in quotes. It
Mm-hmm.
just would have been, oops, oh no, I had them in safety.
Right. 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 Exactly. Wow. And so now that was your experiences, dealing with the doctors. Then you came across. First of all, how did you find your doula?
So she is a certified nurse midwife.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, she was, but she doesn't practice anymore. But that's the title, the certified nurse midwife.
Okay.
And I was telling Nicole that the difference is the certified nurse midwife is medically recognized.
Mm-hmm.
They are the birth doctors.
Mm-hmm.
While doulas take a more secondary role, they're more supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So a doula can be considered like your sister friend that
Mm-hmm.
will help you know what positions to get in during birth, how to help ease certain pains. They kind of prep you psychologically for it, as well as work on your body and anything else that you might need. And they're there, they can be there prenatally, or you can hire or you can
Mm-hmm.
hire a doula after you give birth, and they'll do things like tend to your baby while you rest or help clean up your house. It's kind of like a baby nanny specifically, and
Mm-hmm.
they also care for you.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I found my midwife is we basically scoured our insurances in network providers
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we really needed the help at the time, and we preferred somebody who was in network. And the first birth center that we went to, the one that we immediately fired, that was also in network. And
Mm-hmm.
then there was the tiny little one. She was on the very outskirts of the network. And when we called our insurance, they were like, "Who is that?" But they ended up taking her.
How she get on a plantation?
Basically, it was basically like that. So we barely got in there by grace.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. And then tell us about the experience, when you got with this midwife.
I was sold on day one.
Mm.
So she had open houses,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a couple of different couples that were expecting,
Mm-hmm.
and she sat us in her waiting room. The place felt warm and cozy. It felt like a home
Mm.
that just had medical equipment for when the babies were coming.
Mm.
There were fully furnished rooms that were calm and peaceful, beds with different heights, definitely different lighting,
Mm.
nice calm bathrooms. She had tubs for anybody that wanted to sit and soak while they were in labor.
Wow.
And she explained her philosophy and how things would go and what would happen. And just the atmosphere of the place. There was that peace that I was
Mm-hmm.
looking for. And I said, this is it.
Mm. 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 And you had shared in your message, you had said where I think you were saying there was a difference because you was like, this may be a little bit TMI, but and then you were saying like how when you go into the doctors themselves, they're very invasive versus the doula slash midwives or whatever. On the other hand, you were giving examples where like they can just look at you, and tell, okay, well, you need to do this or you need to do that or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Remember you was talking
Yes,
about that?
they.
Yeah, if you could share some of that too.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely loved it. She was very hands off. She asked questions. Obviously, she has to touch your tummy, and she can poke and prod around. They
Mm-hmm.
can tell the exact position your baby is in and let you know if that's a good thing. They can say, these are some exercises you can do to help baby kind of roll over to get them in the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
She had ways to check the heartbeat and stuff. They're, what do they call that? Not a sonogram. She basically was able to check the baby's heartbeat without anything being invasive. I believe what I said to Nicole was nobody looked at my hoo-ha until the baby was literally coming out.
Mm.
And
Wow.
I loved that. It made you feel like you were human. The dignity was there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Now, did you do when you had your children? Because I know I see sometimes mothers give birth like in a bathtub or something like that. Did you do that, or were you on a bed? Or how did you? What did you choose?
So I had thought I wanted to be in the tub, but as soon as I got in there, that water was freezing to me. And then my midwife was sitting on the edge of the tub with her temperature gun, like, no, it has to be this temperature. We don't want to hurt the baby. I said, no, get me out of here.
Okay, okay. So you did okay. Yeah, because I wondered that I've seen both. Where it's in the tub, and I've seen that, and what's so funny is I'll look at that and I'm like, I know it's just gonna sound super silly, but I'm like, I don't want the baby to drown. Not realizing that the baby's in water all this time. You know
They
what
were
I mean?
already in
Yeah.
water.
But I've seen it, like women like do that. Like if you go on YouTube, you'll see it, and it's such a beautiful experience, regardless if it's in a tub or you're on a bed or something like that. I think it's just a beautiful experience when these midwives slash doulas are taking part in it. It just seems very relaxing. Like you said, everything I've seen, I'm like, wow, this looks very nice. Now, when I compare
Yep.
it to my wife, when we had our children in the hospital, and then we were in Georgia too, that was more standard hospital like. You know what I mean? It was nice. I mean, the rooms
Mhm.
were nice because at that time the hospital was they had just reconstructed it or something like that. So the rooms were they were a lot nicer, right? But if we had to do it all again, I know she want that treatment.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have Nicole. I'm put her on the mic here. Go ahead.
Hey, Cecily.
Uh-huh.
So you were saying earlier, which really I was just, I don't know, it got me really excited. You were saying when you were spending some time in this, birthing center, and you observed the midwives doing their thing, and you said that, you would see it, one of the staff saying to a woman that was giving birth, having her um, drink this tea, or smell this aromatherapy, this essential oil, or do this or do that. And you would see ladies who were having trouble giving birth, all of a sudden within 2 minutes, the baby is out. And you said that you saw them just using all of these natural methods to assist in a peaceful delivery. Can you share that with everyone?
Oh, absolutely. That was one of the things that had sold me during the in-house tour. Not so I can't speak for every certified nurse midwife because a lot of them work in the quote unquote birth centers that are part of the hospitals. So you have to vet yours and make sure that their values align with yours. But the ones that I had were knowledgeable in herbalism and how to apply that to mothers and
That's awesome.
pregnancy and birth.
Hmm.
So there were moments where one of the midwives was experienced enough to see problems before they happened, or a mother would have a stalled labor, or she seemed very uncomfortable. She would know how to apply herbs or aromatherapy or homeopathy to help get that baby to move or help the mother
Mm.
be comfortable and relaxed enough for everything to proceed.
Now, are you comfortable sharing um, what you told us about your second delivery and the assistance via phone? Are you comfortable enough to share that, or?
Oh, yes, yes, I'm fine with that. So for my second little one, by then, um, we were having a home birth, and she was a bit overbaked. She decided to come when nobody expected her. So neither of the midwives were able to be there in person when I had gone into labor. And just by hearing me over the phone and hearing a bit of a description of what was going on, my midwife was like, crap. She could tell that I was going to have this baby much faster. She said that subsequent ones normally happen faster. So I called, or I was on the phone with one midwife, and she was able to talk my mother through what was going on and how to help me at that time.
Mm.
And just by the sounds she heard from me and the descriptions my mother gave, she was able to say, place your hands here on the next contraction. You should be able to feel the baby turn right now. Or this is where the baby is right now.
Just
Have Cecily sit like this if that's comfortable. She,
That's
just by
awesome.
that over the phone, she was
Mm,
able to walk it through. That much experience.
mm.
And I had mentioned before, she was the type of person that could walk into a room during a birthing situation, look the mom up and down, and say, this is what you need to do. Just that experience.
Mm.
So she had done that to get me partway through the labor. And then the other midwife was able to reach us by video phone. So that half of the birth story was completely virtual. And they were able
Wow.
to bring in a doula that they were in network with at the time. So that doula was on her way while my second midwife was on the video call, still
Wow.
talking everybody through, being able to know what's going on, being very professional about it. Not only are they professional, but they're also comforting. They they're able to use that professional voice to keep you grounded like, hey, you need to breathe, or hey, this is what's going on. But
Mm-hmm.
they also sound like your friend. So you're never intimidated during
Wow.
the time.
Wow, 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 wow. I'm telling you, if there was a baby number three for me, woo! How many women have babies when they're 50? I don't know. But if there was a baby number three, right, that wanted to rear
Mm,
its beautiful head, it would definitely be natural at home childbirth for me. No
mhm,
question. No question. And I'm just going to share um, a little bit about when I gave birth. It's interesting. Yes, we were in the hospital. And I'm here, y'all. I'm just not, you know, I'm just, yeah. I'm always like coming in from work, hopping on, so yeah, I'm not really camera suitable right now. But anyway, um, it, both with both children in the hospital, you know, I'm in labor, and they are you comfortable? We can go ahead. We're going to get the epidural ready. And I'm like, no, 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 you don't have to get any epidural ready. Well, it'll
and
make you
see how
much.
they said that without even asking you? They just assumed, like,
I mean,
hey,
they
we're gonna
they
get this
literally
ready.
assume, because like I don't know what the stats are, don't get me quoting stats, but apparently, most women um do that. They want to be comfortable. And so, the nurse or whoever was attending to me said it'll make you much more comfortable. You'll still be able to push you throughout through the contractions, but it will just be a more. And I'm like, no, no, thank you. I'm fine. I'm
And I
totally
remember they
fine.
were pushing that hard.
Yeah. And
Like
then,
now, knowing what I know now, I
right.
understand why.
Yeah.
But they were like, "You sure? You
And
sure?"
my eyes were pushing her out the door.
I know that's
Okay,
right.
like, you've asked
Mhm.
enough, get
Yeah.
out. Okay, like, no, I don't want an epidural. And so yeah, so both of my children, were birthed as natural as can be in the setting of a hospital. But I have this question for you, and that's
Mhm.
no, shade for ladies who have
Right.
who got an epidural.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm just sharing my experience, right? So Cecily, what would you say? I'm curious, when you have an at home birth, right, with the
Mhm.
certified nurse midwives that assisted you and the doulas, after the child is born, what, like, because in the hospital the child is born and you hold them for a couple seconds and they take that baby, right? So
Mhm.
at home, what happens after the child is, emerges and is fully born into the world? Like, what happens?
So what happens is, and this happened both at home and at the birth center, is the baby is here. Everybody oohs and ahs. They dry off the baby immediately and wrap them up in something nice and pre-warmed, a pre-warmed blanket, and then they lay them directly on your chest. And then they step back and watch you and your spouse coo.
Mm, mm, mm,
Wow.
mm,
Yeah, that's what
mm,
they did.
And
mm.
then,
Go ahead.
oh,
No,
sorry.
no, no. Go ahead.
And it's like that for a couple of minutes. And they don't rush you, but they
Mm-hmm.
do let you know that you can't that's not the end of it. You can't just stay there because you still need to get the placenta out.
Right.
And they also encourage you to immediately have skin to skin with the baby and breastfeed as soon as possible to start that.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah, it was like that in the hospital. Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
good.
What else would you like to share, about the whole experience of, that you've had natural childbirthing, seeing what's out here in the hospitals these days? I mean, how would you or what advice would you have to for a pregnant woman who's looking for to this is what I mean. I've been working all day, y'all. Okay, so this is a 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time brain right now. But what would you say to a pregnant woman who wants to give natural childbirth, wants to have their birth naturally, where do they start? What resources? Where would you direct them? I mean, how do they get started looking?
See, it's all about information. And the way I got started was soaking up as much information as I could from A to Z. I
Yeah.
researched natural births and I researched them juxtaposed to hospital births. So first I learned why hospital births weren't ideal. And I did that first because I knew I needed to build up my shield for when I inevitably got that she's crazy pushback.
Mm-hmm.
So I built up those statistics. And like what you mentioned about the epidural, that's them with their training kicked in to start that cascade of intervention. So the
Mm-hmm.
epidural, they market it as the easy way out. You'll be much more comfortable, this and that. Yes, it may lessen the pain. It doesn't necessarily lessen the pain, it just numbs it. But
Mm-hmm.
what's happening in labor is that you need that. You need those contractions. That's your body telling you what's going on. You have
Yeah.
to go with them.
No
So
question.
instead of teaching you how to manage the pain and let it roll over and through you, they take that part of the equation away and it makes it much more difficult. The epidural numbs everything down there, which means part of it, a part of your ability to push is being taken away. Plus, it could lead to any sort of other complications where they would go up, time for C-section. The same with when you're not progressing in your labor fast enough to their liking, and they decide to start that I think it's what Pitocin. They decide to start that Pitocin drip, and we'll be here all night if I go into detail about the cascade that can start. So I looked up all that sort
To
of
start
information.
inducing your
So
contractions and making those really violent the
yes,
drug that starts those really violent contractions, you mean?
yes,
Yeah.
inducing it starts, and that's exactly what it is. Violent contractions. The induced contractions are nowhere near the same as the natural ones
Natural
that go
ones.
through. The natural ones are still intense, but it's like a really uncomfortable pressure and then it loosens up. And then a really uncomfortable pressure. It's kind of hard to equate it as pain because there's different levels. You know how sometimes you have a numb pain or you have something that's stinging and hard and it's there in the foreground.
Mm.
There's kind of different phases to that, and the pitocin again can disrupt that. Obviously, there's a time and a place for everything, and like you said before, there's no shade to anybody who has gone through it that way. One, you may not have known, and two, you may have actually needed it.
Mm.
So that's why information is a big deal in this.
Yeah, no question.
So so I would recommend to get read up on what actually goes on in hospitals and why the mother and infant mortality rates for us are abysmal there in 2023,
Mm.
in modern day, and then go to the other side. See why natural births are recommended. See what's going on. Look at the stats of the birth centers. And there's one famous midwife in the US. Her name is Ina May Gaskin. I recommend all of her books be read.
Mm. You said Ina May Gaskin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ina May Gaskin. And
Mm.
I can't remember which book it's in, but there's one excerpt out of her book that particularly stuck with me because she was a white lady from Tennessee. I think she's from Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
and she was either attending a birth or she had a mother that was expecting, and that mother was telling her how she was she was afraid to give birth, and I don't I can't paraphrase it exactly, but the conversation was that the woman was afraid to give birth and she didn't know if she could give birth like a black woman because at that time the black women were known for having these quick, simple, efficient births. And
Mm.
that girl was like, I don't know if we could do it like Black women. There was a whole little segment of the book that said, yes, you can birth like a Black woman too. And that stuck with
What?
me. Yeah. The
What?
midwife had to tell that baby girl, she was like, you can do it like the Black ladies too. Are you not a female?
Wow. Who knew? Wow. 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 Wow.
Wow.
That's something.
Well, I did want to ask one more
Mm-hmm.
thing for you. Let me bring this mic back over here. Speaking of that, what you were just saying, you know, um, pregnancy or birth for that one, giving birth is such a very intimate, special thing. And it's definitely that in the case when it comes to, our black women, white women, I'm just saying, but right now we're talking about black women. Now, for many of us, as I led off in this broadcast earlier, I was just saying how there's this thing that, we just gonna go 100% black, everybody, period, no matter what. Now, what I want to ask you is, as a mother who has given birth, who has gone through this twice, what is more important to you if you had a choice? Is it that the midwife slash doula is a black woman, or that she's qualified?
So I would go as far to say it's not even the qualifications that mean the most to me.
Hmm.
It's definitely the spirit.
The spirit, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
if I see that right spirit, then I know I'm good.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So the doula that was there in person while the midwife was on the video call,
Mm-hmm.
she was still like a junior doula. She had
Mm-hmm.
only attended a handful of births, and she was physically the only one there by herself. And I was still 100% comfortable with her because
Mm-hmm.
I knew her, and
Mm-hmm.
I was comfortable with her spirit. I knew that we'd be okay around her.
Mm-hmm.
And my first midwife, she is a white lady, and that that didn't bother me at all. It didn't even occur to me
Mm-hmm.
to think that that may have been a problem, because when you step into her birth center and the way she welcomes everybody, also it helped that she was hip to how they treat black women in hospitals. That's part of the
Mm-hmm.
reason she started her own practice, is that she was kind of driven out of the mainstream because of the way they she called it out. Both of the midwives that ran the that birth center were kind of ostracized for the way that they actually cared about these women and babies.
Mm-hmm.
So it helped a lot that she was already armed with the knowledge of how we're treated.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of coincides with the allies that you were talking about. Like, not
Yeah.
everybody has to look like us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very good point. Because of the fact that what you just said, I think that's, and we as particularly women, because y'all really are discerning. When it comes to discernment, men too, but women especially, you can pick up something across the universe, in something. It's just because that's how the Most High has made y'all, and that is something that. And then when you're about to give birth, just in observing my wife when she was doing that. I mean, when I tell you senses were on overload, were very heightened. There were certain things she was just like, yes, no, whoa, get out, no, this, that. I mean, she wasn't mad, she wasn't mean or anything. It was like this. Everything was heightened, and you got to be like that. I think when especially when it's your child coming into the picture,
hmm
and it's wait a minute, so I think there's a lot of these messages that we're putting out, like someone that left a message, they said, well, if I'm gonna have one, is she gonna have to be a black woman? And that, I think, for me personally, my preference is always working with our people, but above that,
hmm
I think my preference is really making sure that I have someone that has a history of doing it correctly, doing it right, but it's someone that I can kind of jive with. Like you said, it's just you pick it up that, okay, they're not in here for no mess. And then I think another
Right.
thing that's good too is that having, in your case, you have your spouse there. And for those sisters, let's say, that may not have a spouse there, having some other family members there too, because you may not, what you miss, the other family members will pick up. And I
Right.
think
And
just
if not an
yeah,
actual family member, somebody who knows you well, a close friend, you need somebody in
yes,
your corner.
yes, 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 yes. I think that is so key. So really, depending on your ability to discern the spirit of the person, I think, especially when it comes to this kind of stuff, I think you hit the nail on the head. That sounds like good advice to me. Nicole, did you have anything else?
Mm, I just want to thank
Yeah,
Cecily for coming on.
girl, appreciate that. This was last minute.
Yeah, it was last minute.
Appreciate you.
Oh,
Thank you.
it's all good. Like I said, this topic means so much to me. I could be here all night if you guys would let me.
It's
But
important. It's you know what? It's important, and it's an emerging. I think it's of emerging
Yeah.
importance. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always
yes.
been important. Birthing naturally has always been, the best way, and it's always been important. But I think the way we see things going now, um, post COVID, so to speak, and
Mhm.
when I say post COVID, meaning after the initial everything that went down on the initial wave, um, hospitals are a much scarier place.
Mhm.
They've always been okay, but you don't know what may happen. You know what I mean? In these
Mhm.
hospitals these days, and so if again, for those of you, you have to go for whatever reason, one reason or another, may the most high go with you. Okay. But if if we can educate our people, we can share solutions. Doing her I don't want her phone number on the screen, popping up on the screen. Might want to just maybe turn, yeah. um um educate our people, bring awareness that hey, there are other solutions. You don't have to do it the way everybody else around you is doing it. You know what I'm saying? This is a
Mhm.
real solution, and there are more and more and more women that are choosing to do this, or more and more families, right? More and more
Mhm.
husband and wife couples, so on and so forth, that are choosing to do it this way. And it's just definitely something worth investigating for sure, to see if it's right for you. Yeah. So I definitely appreciate you coming on, sis.
Yes. Yes. So thank
Hey, if I may, can I mention one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. It's quick. It just came to me that the when it comes to gathering information about this, I've noticed that a lot of the bad things that happen to our women mostly come from a place of fear as well. Obviously, you want to have a healthy pregnancy. You're worried about your baby. You're worried about the birth. You might be scared about the pain. And that fear leads you to just trust the doctor. They must know what they're doing. When
Mm-hmm.
you're gathering information, everything that scares you, look it up. If you're afraid of the
Mm-hmm.
pain, look up all the pain management. If you're
Mm-hmm.
afraid of the process, watch videos of live birth. If you're afraid of having if you're afraid that you won't have a healthy pregnancy, look up the nutrition. So first of all, don't take the prenatal vitamins. It's garbage. You have to take your nutrition into your own hands. You got
Mm-hmm.
to look it up. There are different books, and I can give you guys some more later off air or whenever, but the information is there. Anything that scares you, look up the truth about it and dispel that fear. So then you can go in with confidence.
Sis, when I tell you you are on it, and that is so good, like, don't get me started. That is so good what you just said, because when I went into it, just everything you're saying is making me reflect on my personal experience. And
hmm
I remember before giving birth, um, there were books. Obviously, your OBGYN will suggest books, that you read, but my friends also suggested books on natural childbirth. Now, I didn't have a
hmm
doula, I didn't have a midwife, I didn't have any of that, but I read I read how a natural childbirth, what it looks like, how it's supposed to go, when the
hmm
pain is heightened and when it's not. You know, if you choose to do an epidural, these are the potential harmful effects, to the baby, all these different things, and so it made it easier when they offered me this intervention or that intervention. I had already made up in my mind that I was not going to do that. Do you understand what I'm
Yep.
saying? Because
Yep.
again, it is wisdom to, like you said, read, educate yourself, and really know what to expect. You can't, you may not, be able to anticipate everything, right? Because everybody's body is different, everybody's experience is different. But generally, you can know what to expect, and you can already have your decisions made before, like, for example, if you do have to deliver in a hospital, you already know they're going to offer me X, Y, and Z. And if I'm able to, I want to decline this, this, and this. Now, for example, you have
Mm-hmm.
complications and they're, you have to have a C-section or whatever it is. Again, I'm not, you have to use wisdom, but you're absolutely right. You don't go in there blindly fearful, because you talk about vulnerability. You're at you, like you said, you'll be at your most vulnerable point, and you're in a place of ignorance, so to speak, because you haven't
Mm-hmm.
done that research, you haven't read, you haven't, do you know what I'm saying? And not just relying on, oh, we're going to do that. Your doctor says this, or your nurse practitioner says this, we're going to do this, and this. It's going to be fine. And I think a lot of people passively enter into the birthing process. Some people, I should
Mm-hmm.
say, because of that trust that they have in their doctor. We just have to take this stuff back into our own hands. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Yep.
and you can do that whether you're having a natural childbirth or whether you're birthing in the hospital. You know what I mean? You definitely
Yep.
can play an active part. And one last thing I'm going to say, with the first child, do you remember, Dwayne? One thing I had read was get up and walk around. If you can get up and you can walk around. I was up and walking around.
Good. Yep.
Yeah. I was up and walking around until I was
And
so
these
dilated that I
hospitals don't
couldn't.
let moms
They were like,
eat.
you got to get your butt, get your brown cheeks in the bed. But I was up and walking around because I had read that would I don't remember if it would kind of like, I don't remember what the reason was, but that's what I was doing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the pictures that I had seen of everybody else is just, oh, I was in labor for 20 hours. I was in labor for 10 hours. And I was just in that bed. I couldn't. Do you know what I mean? And I knew that wasn't what I wanted, So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think all of this is very good. And it's all of this, even in small ways and small shades, what it does is we are taking back accountability for our own
Mm-hmm.
well-being. Do you know what I'm saying? And not just
Yep.
turning it all over to the healthcare system, to the doctors, to the whatever, thinking that they have our best interests at heart. And I think what you said last night, Dwayne, when you said, where on earth do you find people who believe that the system is against you, or you believe that again, you were brought here as slaves, so this country was never for you, but you believe somehow that they've built a healthcare system that will look out for your best interest every single time. It makes no sense. And that I think, I think all of these things, right? Whether it be
Mm-hmm.
our diets, a lot of y'all in the chat and that are watching this video, you guys are growing your own food. That's excellent, right? That's beginning to take accountability for our own well-being. Sister Cecily on here sharing her experience about, with the midwife and the doulas and natural childbirth. Again, it's because there's so much. I'm not going to go there. Cecily, maybe you and I will do another session. But there's so much trauma that happens during childbirth that's done the wrong way. Yeah. During
Yep.
childbirth, if they're pulling your baby's head out with anyway, there's so much trauma. There's
Don't even
psychological
get me
trauma,
like,
there's spiritual
who
trauma, there's
does
emotional
that?
trauma. There's so much trauma that happens during the process of childbirth when it is not done in a natural way and when it's done in an unnatural environment. Okay? There just is. It's literally proven. You know, I can't cite the studies right now, you know, as I'm just sitting here talking off the top of my head, but we've researched this. So again, in every single area, you know, even if it's small steps, we have to take these small steps to begin to take accountability for our own well-being and the well-being of our families, you know, and what better place to start than in the birthing canal or birthing process, you know what I mean? So yeah, we definitely appreciate you coming and sharing, sis, for sure.
Thanks for having me. I'm so glad.
Yeah, you've been a big help. So appreciate it. Yeah. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. So thanks again, sis. Appreciate it.
All right. Good night.
All right. Take care.
Good night, sis.
I tell you, I was sitting here shaking my head because, you know, the idea the machine keeps running in my mind, you know, because again, see, my thing is, and like I was saying, where am I looking? I'm looking there. My thing is, you know, it's, you know, of course, we already heard about the story. We know about this whole, you know, story with this unfortunate, and of course, we're going to pray. We want to wrap up this broadcast by, of course, praying for that family. And then we want to also pray. I know we had at least one mom, or as our people in England says, mum, you know, here in the chat, who is expecting. So if you have anybody in the chat that's expecting, or maybe you have a daughter that's expecting, put it in the chat, and we're going to close this out by praying for them, okay? So now you got some information, right? You got a little bit of information tonight, but we also want to give some inspiration too. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, and this is kind of where I'm just saying my mind, sometimes I like to let it sit on the beach. You know, when you're on the beach, sometimes you just kind of dream a little bit. And I was just sitting here thinking, and maybe Nicole, you can answer this. Team Truth, we'll get to you. Okay, I didn't forget about you. He had a question in the chat, so we'll answer you. We'll answer you. Okay. Just imagine for a second if we got together, just a few of us said, you know what? We got the information. We see what's going on out here. What if we created our own birthing center? Just imagine that for a second, where it was just it was in a nice, beautiful scene, like a setting, let's say in the mountains somewhere. And then, you know, you got your waterfall back there, or maybe there's like a creek back there. I remember one time, I'll never forget my first trip to Colorado. I went to Vail, and it was a company trip. And they put me up in a room in Vail, you know, and that's where they do all the skiing. But this was like during the summertime. And I got there, by the time I got to my room, is at nighttime. So I didn't get a chance to really see what everything looked like outside. But when I woke up that following morning, I was like, I hear water. And I looked outside my window, and there's literally like this mountain stream next to my window. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh my goodness. And it was just such a calm and a peace, right? You know, and just thinking about that. So what if just a few of us got together and said, you know, we're going to put our monies together. Let's buy a slice of land somewhere. Just a slice. And we created our own birthing center where women all around the country can come and they can learn just the basics of birthing, you know, and get the information that they need and just enjoy. And then women, y'all can get your nails done. You can get your hair did, you know, and someone there is teaching you nutrition and all of that. And it's like a little getaway for all of our women who are expecting. And then that way you can take that info and then take it. Now you have a high standard that you've established for yourself, so that when you go back to Be More, when you go back to Atlanta, when you go back to Philly, you're like, I want to maintain what I learned in that little spot up there in the mountains. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying in the mountains. It could be anywhere. It could be at the beach, whatever. But I want y'all to be thinking along those lines of, because that, even though that may seem far-fetched, just with the few people that are on here tonight, if people were to get together and say, hey, listen, let's pull our resources and let's get this done that quick, right now and quick, it could be done. And that's what I'm saying. I want our people to really start thinking of, manifesting, if you will, these solutions, because you can. And when I say manifesting, I'm like saying, well, I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about making up your mind that you're going to solve this problem, and you're going to do it where you're winning big time. And those things can be done. And there are examples out there where it's like what I just gave to you is already, people are doing this. But as you can see, we need a lot more examples of this, because again, I'm very serious. My personal goal in life is to have every Black person leave the medical system. And so in order to shoot that high up, that means we're going to have some infrastructure in place to accommodate things like this. And so tonight's broadcast, we're mainly talking about, our women in childbearing and all of that. But I want you to be thinking about, what solutions can I do, to solve this? Some of y'all, like I said, my hope and prayer is that you are inspired enough, for some of y'all, maybe to get into the area of getting trained to be a doula or a midwife or something like that. I would encourage you to look into that if that's something that really is inspiring to you. But like our dear sister said, we hit it in the nail on the head. Your spirit got to be right. You can't be going up in there and you hate your mom and you hate your dad and you got issues in your own heart, and you up there talking about, where them children at? I told nah. You don't want to be messing with especially Black women now. They pick that up. You gonna keep it on, keep right on going. Keep that attitude up out of here. You know what I'm saying? Because you're bringing in life. You're not bringing in death. You're bringing in life. So you got to be one that is giving life. You understand what I'm saying? So when that baby comes out, it's like, this is awesome. Everybody up in here is just awesome. How you doing? All that. So that's the environment that we want to create, and you can do that. It can be done. And I'm gonna tell you right now, that's why a lot of times I'll just put it out there, and I'm like, I hope someone jump on it and do it, because if they don't, Father, I pray you give me enough strength and energy and the resources to get it done, because this is something clearly that can be done. I know it can. Nicole, here you go.
Just real quick. Like what you just said, Dwayne. And a lot of times people think that you have to start with, let's buy some land. It's like, no, you start with a weekend workshop, natural birthing weekend workshop. And you bring in, people who are experienced to speak, and you set up a really nice retreat for expecting mothers. That's how you start. You know what I mean? And you let it grow. But I want to read Cecily's answer to Team Truth, who asked, hey, how do you get around not doing the immunizations after the child is born? And Cecily, who was just our guest tonight, she said, we signed papers that declined immunization at the birthing center. They were totally okay with it. And afterwards, we searched out pediatricians who respected parents who did not immunize. And, okay. And hold on. Rohan said, no. Cecily said, let's see, The Business of Birthing, or The Business of Being Born, is a great documentary that you guys should check out. So yeah, I've never heard of that one. And then also one last thing is, if you are giving birth at the hospital, what I would do is there are tons of medical law offices, that you can just, some of them you can just call up and ask the question. You know what I mean? You don't even have to pay anything, but to find out am I bound by law to have, my child receive this vaccine or that vaccine before we leave the hospital? Because when I was giving birth to my daughter, I'm not sure, but I said I don't want her to have any shots. I don't want any shots. And the nurse's response was, well, she doesn't have to have this. She doesn't have to have this. And she went down the list. Okay, she doesn't have to have all those, but we can't allow her to leave the hospital without this one. I'm not sure what that was again. Okay, so that's been over 20 years ago. So, but look into it, because that's another thing. If you are already prepared and you already have, even if you have paperwork, hey, this is from my legal counsel that by, New Jersey law or California law or Kansas law, I legally have the right to take my baby out of this hospital without any vaccinations being given at all. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? That's something for you guys to look into and to research. But that's the research you do before you get to the hospital, not during, So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, like I said, we're going to be revisiting this topic again, hopefully very soon. If we can get the guests to come on, and if not, we'll definitely. This is something that I want to definitely revisit when it comes to our women, because when I hear stories like this, it really, obviously, it breaks your heart. When you hear about what happened down in Georgia, but that's just one of many stories. This one just happened to make it into the mainstream where people heard about it. But there are stories like this that are happening all the time of our women who are, where things are happening to their child. Well, I tell you that children are such a blessing. They're such a blessing. We if you haven't checked it out, please make sure you check out the series we did on circumcision. That's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother topic. And I would highly encourage you to please check that out. You're going to find that over on mybondtube.com. And what it does is, what we did is Nicole and I took a great deal of time looking at what happens to a child when they are circumcised. And, for many, when you hear circumcision, you of course, you get that from the Bible and what the Bible says about circumcision. And we need to, circumcision is a sign of you being set aside or set apart. And this is something we should do. Well, let me start off with a very basic question, a very basic one. So you are set apart, right? And circumcision is a sign that you're set apart, right? Let me ask you something. Then why would this system that you're part of right now encourage you to get circumcision? Are they encouraging you to be set apart from the system when it's the system that is doing the circumcision? That doesn't add up, does it? Anything that this system encourages or pushes on you, is suspect, right? And so what we did was we actually took a historical look at where circumcision came from. Circumcision predates what you see in the Bible. Let me say that again. The act of circumcision predates of what is stated in the Bible. Circumcision goes as far back as Babylon. It's a Babylonian practice. And it goes even further than that, I believe. And we went through and showed you all the receipts on where that comes from. And then we looked at the Bible. We went through the scriptures and showed you, okay, there's not the continuity there. It ain't the math ain't mathing what the Bible is saying on this. Then we took it even further and fast forwarded and look at the modern data and what it does to a child from a psychological standpoint and the impact that it has on men. Well, because we're talking about men predominantly here when we're talking about circumcision, the impact that it has on men, but also the impact it has on the sex life of men as well. So there's a whole lot that's attached to things like circumcision that we have to revisit. We got to learn. And if this is something that when you first hear it, it's like a pushback. Oh, no, I don't want to hear that because I know we're going to do this circumcision. I would really encourage you, just give it a chance. Take a look at the information And then once you hear everything out, then make up your mind on that. But don't be willingly ignorant when it comes to this information. Like our sister just said, there's a lot of info out here. Please take the time and look it up. And I'm gonna tell you right now, we will be the better off for it when we start doing that. But yeah, so we'll do a part 2 of this hopefully very soon. And this is really going to be a part of our kind of transition. I said this months back. I said we're still going to be talking about certain topics up until once we start getting into September, October, November. Then we're going to really start transitioning more into a lot of these health issues and things like that we really want to get into. So we'll be doing that. You'll be seeing this platform go through some little changes on there and really trying to provide some solutions as it pertains to our people's health and wellness and all that kind of good stuff. And it's going to be very exciting. I'm very excited about that. So anyway, I think that is it. Is there anything I'm missing? Okay. All right. So if you have any further questions for us, always feel free. You can email us. You got our email addresses, connect at Issachar. Oh, not IssacharOnline.com. Let me say it again. It's connect at journeymanandwoman.com. Again, it's connect at journeywoman. Jenny May. we both tired. Connect at Jenny Mays. Connect at journeymanandwoman.com. Connect at jemimas.com. Connect at journeymanandwoman.com. Connect at journeymanandwoman.com. And we'll be more than happy when we get to it. We'll get to it when we can, okay? This is a very busy month for us, but we'll certainly try to get to it as quickly as we can, okay? That's it. That's all we have. Thank you so much. Huh? Oh, yes. And let's go ahead and we're going to close in prayer. Anybody at all in the chat, I'm running my mouth. I didn't look in the chat here. Anybody here at all is expecting? You go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and start praying, and I'll be peeking my eye in the chat to see if anybody puts anything in there. If it's either you or maybe a daughter of yours that's expecting, we want to go ahead and pray. So, Father, I'll just go ahead and start praying. Father, I just thank you again for this time that we had to come together this evening to, find out the state of this wicked world and what's going on, but also to come together to come up with some solutions on how we can rectify this. We can stop the madness of depending on this system to bring your life into this world. And we repent of that. We repent of our willing ignorance and giving our children to Baal, because that's basically what we're doing when we depend on this system to deliver our children. So we repent of that. We ask for your forgiveness. And we repent of our ignorance, even as parents. We didn't know, but now we do know, and we want to do everything we can that we're not repeating the mistakes of old. And so, Father, right now we just pray that those that are in the chat right now, if they are anybody that's expecting in this chat, I pray, Father, that they would have a wonderful, peaceful, healthy birth. We pray that the only doctors that you have appointed and ordained to be there, that they will be there. Those that are not supposed to be in the room, that they will not be in the room. Something will come up. I pray, Father, that that they won't even be in the room, nowhere at all. They just go. But the people that's supposed to be there will be there. And I pray, Father, that for some people, I understand that, in life, especially around pregnancies, for some reason, it just seems like that's when things get attenuated. So whatever mess that may be going on in the individual's life around this pregnancy, I pray that you would just help them to navigate through this situation, through the situations. Maybe there's a father or a mother, whatever it may be. We don't know. But I pray, God, Father, that you would just give them the peace that they need. And that will be the medicine that they need in this time to bring peace, and that there'll be a wonderful delivery, and that the child will grow to be who you created them to be. And we just thank you, Father, and for the grandparents that are in the house that have grandchildren as well, as you're listening to these things as well. I pray that this information will just somehow they would build on it as well. Even though they're not giving birth or anything like that, but they are certainly, as grandparents in the house, you are more. Father, I pray that they will understand the value that they bring to the table, and that they will continue to bring that value, and as they continue to live, walk, and breathe amongst us, because we desperately need them in this hour. Thank you, Father.
And we just lift up, lastly, we just lift up Protector of Peace, who's going to be delivering her baby in a couple of weeks. We thank you. We thank you, and we celebrate this new life that's coming in to being. We pray that you would have your hand on this child. We pray that you would bless this child. We pray that this child would come into life with strength and with wholeness and healed and intelligent and wise, even at a young age. I pray that everything that you've ordained for Protector of Peace's child, everything that's been ordained for this child from the foundation of the earth, I pray that it would come forth. I pray that her child would walk in every single thing that's been destined for him or for her. I pray your blessings be rich upon his or her head. And I pray your spirit would go with this child every single day of their life, that they would walk with you, that they would not leave you, that they would allow you to guide them. I thank you for this child. I thank you for this child. K Renee. K Renee. Everything I just said also is for K Renee. I pray you would touch her body, strengthen it in areas where these ladies, where their bodies may need some extra fortification, areas where their bodies are not built up yet for this pregnancy. I pray that you would supernaturally strengthen their wombs. I pray for their delivery, that their deliveries would be smooth, that peace would reside over their deliveries. I pray against fear right now. I rebuke fear right now over both of them. And I speak peace and the confidence of the Most High be over these ladies. I pray they would be in their right mind. They would be focused. They would be strong in their faith going into their deliveries, and that they would birth little men and women that would stand for you in these last days. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Father, for looking over them, watching over them, never leaving them, never forsaking them. And we're expectant and we're in faith to see these beautiful babies come into this world and do what you've called them to do. Thank you for life. Thank you for the gift of life. And thank you so much for even just reminding us of your natural way, the natural way you intended for life to be brought in and ushered in to this world. Thank you so much for reminding us tonight of that. Thank you for restoration. We trust you. We love you. We honor you. We believe you. And we thank you for your promises. Let it be done.
And then definitely tonight, we just want to lift up Jessica Ross and Trayvon Isaiah Taylor. Yes. You know, the couple who lost their baby in this tragic situation down in Georgia. We just lift them up to you. Yes. What we ask above all else is that your justice would prevail in this situation. Let not one person who's responsible for the demise of this child escape your judgment. Not one. Everybody who took part in ending this life, in trying to hide the evidence, trying to push things to the side so that other people wouldn't know. We ask, Father, that your justice would prevail entirely over this situation. Yes. And that whatever lawyer that has been appointed to represent this family, that he would be about your justice above all else. And it would not be used for any other reason, that these parents would get the full measure of your true justice in this situation as well.
Yes.
What we take comfort in is knowing that that child is with you now. We take comfort in that, knowing that all of these lives are precious to you,
Yes.
every last one of them.
Yes.
And we ask, Father, that you would just give us, that you will allow these parents to see your justice prevail here on the earth
Yes.
as it pertains to this tragedy that took place in this hospital, on this crime scene. And I just ask, Father, that you'll raise up other people, that will come there to their aid and assistance, and that they won't lack anything in this process. But most of all, I pray that you'll bring aid and comfort to them in that household. And we just thank you, Father, and we give you all the praise, because we know that just as you are meticulous in your creation,
Yes.
and everything that you created has a purpose.
Yes.
We know that even in a situation like this, it has not escaped your eyes, and that your justice will prevail. And we thank you, and we give you all the praise. Let it be done and so. Let it be done and so. All righty. Well, family, again, thank you so much for joining us this wonderful evening. You guys take care. And like I said, I had no plans on going live tonight. I was determined not to be 2 hours. And I'm looking at the time like, dang, here we go. It's at 1:50, 51. So
That's part of my fault.
if I can really help, and I ain't trying to go live tomorrow, I just cannot. Okay, I cannot. Okay, but if this individual does reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, I'm ready for tomorrow," and I'm gonna have to. All right, but that would be a good one. So I'll let you know. Once we get information on that, and any other information we get, we'll put it on the community page. Okay, and I'm gonna see if I can find that documentary and that Rohan mentioned. If I can find it, I'll put it over on my BondTube as well, so that y'all can have it. You can watch it over there too. Okay. All right, family. Listen, you guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm gonna go downstairs. I'm gonna get me some watermelon.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna get me some watermelon. I got me some watermelon earlier, and I'm ready for it.
Where's the tea?
The tea? What tea? Anyway, watermelon tonight. Love you guys. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll be talking again soon. Take care. Love you.